Hey everyone! Hope you're all in a good mood today because I've got a new story for you. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, it really means a lot to me. I found the text where my fiancé and his mother called me the bank and planned to clean out my savings, then dump me before the wedding so the wedding is off. Obviously. But that's not really why I'm here typing this out at whatever time it is. Because honestly, the called off wedding is like the least insane part of what happened over the last 3 weeks. And my sister Della keeps telling me I need to write it down somewhere before I explode, so here we are. Let me back up because none of this makes sense without the setup. Me and Grant were together for a little over 2 years. I'm 29, he's 32. We met through my cousin's husband. Totally normal. Nothing weird about the beginning. Which is honestly part of what messed me up so bad later. Because there was no big red flag at the start that I ignored. He was funny, he remembered stuff I told him, he was good with my nephew. My whole family liked him. My dad, who does not like anybody, shook his hand and later told me he seemed like a guy with his head on straight. That's basically a marriage proposal coming from my father. Here's the thing you need to understand about me and money. Because it matters. I've been the responsible one my entire life. I started saving when I was like 19. I drove a 2015 Elantra with a door that stuck until literally last year. I did the boring stuff, no vacations I couldn't afford, meal prepping in sad little containers, all of it. By the time Grant and I got serious, I had a real cushion saved up, more than most people my age, because I grew up watching my parents fight about bills and I swore I'd never live like that. So the money wasn't glamorous. It was years of me being kind of a hard ass with myself. Grant knew about it. Not the exact number at first, but he knew I was careful and that I had savings. Because early on when his transmission went out, I was the one who could float him until his next check. And he paid me back. Every dollar. Which at the time I thought was this great sign. See? He pays it back. He respects it. We lived, in a mid-sized town in Iowa. One of those places where everybody's second cousin works at the same 3 employers and everyone knows everyone's business. His family's been here forever. Mine moved when I was in middle school, so we're semi-outsiders, which becomes relevant. His mother is named Della too, which drove me nuts because that's my sister's name. So in my head, I always called her by her last name Energy. But I'll just call her his mom so nobody gets confused. His mom is one of those women who's sweet as pie to your face and runs a full-time surveillance operation on everyone in her orbit. From day one, she had this thing where she'd ask me these little questions that felt like small talk but weren't. How's work going? Are they treating you okay? Do you get overtime? Oh, you must be doing well for yourself. That kind of thing. Always circling back to what I made and what I had. I told myself she was just a nosy mom. Every family has one. My own mom asks people their salary at Thanksgiving like it's the weather. And Grant would always smooth it over. If she got too pushy, he'd make a joke, change the subject, tell me later that she means well, she just worries about him. She wants to know he's marrying someone stable. Stable, that word came up a lot, and I ate it up every single time. Because I was proud of being stable. I built that. So when the future mother-in-law framed my entire personality as a financial asset, some part of me was flattered instead of alarmed, and I need you guys to sit with how stupid that feels to type now. Okay, so the engagement. He proposed last spring, nice but not over the top. Ring was modest, and I actually loved that about it because it meant he wasn't blowing money he didn't have. We set the date for this coming fall. And the second we were engaged, the money conversations changed. It stopped being his mom's weird little questions and became this whole team project where suddenly everything was our future and our foundation, and didn't it make sense to consolidate? Didn't it make sense for me to be the one to handle the big deposit on the venue since I had it liquid and he'd pay his half over time? I want to be really honest here because I've had 3 weeks to replay all of it. I said yes to a lot of that. I put down the venue deposit. I covered the block of hotel rooms because they needed a card on file. When his mom found the perfect caterer, a friend of hers, of course, and they needed money up front, guess whose money? And every time, Grant had a reason. And every time, the reason was reasonable in isolation. His paycheck timing. His truck needing work again. Different truck by now. A used Silverado he bought right after we got engaged that I thought was a weird purchase, but whatever. His half was always coming. Just not yet. Della, my sister, the good Della, was the first one who said something. We were at my parents' place for my dad's birthday in July, and she just flat out asked me why I was paying for everything if it was supposed to be a partnership. And I got defensive with her, which I feel awful about now, because she was the only one asking the right question and I bit her head off. I told her she didn't understand our situation, that Grant was going to pay me back, that his money was just tied up. She looked at me like I'd said something sad and let it drop. My dad heard part of it from the kitchen and didn't say anything, but I caught him watching Grant different the rest of the night. So that's the before. That's how I ended up being the bank without even knowing that's what they were calling me. Because I handed it over one reasonable request at a time and told myself a story about being the stable one, the responsible one, the one who could. Now here's how it actually cracked open. And I swear this part is so dumb and so mundane that it almost makes it worse. Grant's phone and my phone are the same. Same model, same boring black case, because we bought them together on a plan. His mom is on the plan too, whole family thing. We'd grab each other's chargers, each other's phones off the counter constantly. It was a running joke. So one night in late August, he's in the shower. And before anyone says unlocked phone in the shower, no, it wasn't like that. His phone was locked. I couldn't have gotten in if I tried, and I didn't try. What happened was his phone was on the kitchen counter face up, and it kept lighting up because his mom was texting him a bunch in a row, the way she did. And I glanced over the way you do when a screen keeps flashing. And the preview showed enough. It was the notification previews. Just the top lines. But it was his mom. And the first one said something about how once the venue money clears, they'd be fine. And the second one said something about the account. And the third one, the one that actually stopped me, said the words, "She's basically the bank, relax," and a little laughing thing after it. Relax, with a laugh. I didn't touch his phone. I want that on the record because I know how this goes. I stood there and read 3 notification previews, and then the screen went dark, and I couldn't get it back, and he was still in the shower, and I had maybe 4 minutes to decide who I was going to be about this. And here's what I did. And this is the part where my sister says my brain works in a way that scares her a little. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry in the bathroom. I went and got my phone, which is identical to his, and I texted his mother from my own number. Something totally normal, just "Hey, it's me. Quick wedding question." Because I wanted to see how she talked to Emmy versus how she talked to him in the same window of time. And the difference in those 2 conversations, the one I could see previews of and the one she was having with me directly, told me everything. To me, sweetie, so excited, can't wait. To him, about me, the bank, relax, laughing. I didn't sleep. I laid there next to him doing the math on everything I'd paid since the engagement. And it was so much more than I'd let myself add up while it was happening. Because when it's one reasonable request at a time, you never total it. And somewhere around 4 in the morning, I stopped being sad and I made a decision. And the decision was that I was not going to warn them. I wasn't going to give them the chance to smooth it over. Because Grant is a world-class smoother, and his mom could talk a dog off a meat truck. If I confronted them then, they'd have a story ready before I finished the sentence. And I'd end up apologizing for going through his phone I didn't even go through. So I decided to find out exactly how deep it went first. Quietly. And then I'd handle it in a way they'd actually feel. In front of the exact people whose opinion of them mattered. The next few days, I was the best fiancé on planet Earth, which honestly might be the scariest thing about me. I asked Grant a bunch of casual planning questions, the kind that make a person show their cards without knowing it. I asked when he thought his half would come through, and he gave me a timeline. I asked if his mom had paid the caterer friend yet or if that was still on me. And he said, "Still on me, babe. Thank you, you're amazing. We'll settle up after the wedding." After the wedding. That phrase kept coming up. Everything squared up after the wedding. The wedding I now knew they were planning to bail on. Because those previews weren't about after the wedding. They were about the money clearing before. I started paying attention to his money differently too. Not snooping, just noticing. The way you notice everything once you know. The Silverado. New clothes I didn't think about at the time. A guy's weekend that I paid for part of because his card got declined at the time. Haha, embarrassing, he said. Every one of those little moments I'd waved off suddenly had a shape. And his mom. I started actually listening to her instead of managing her. She'd been floating this idea for weeks, that after the wedding it would make so much sense for us to move into the rental she owned across town. Family rate. Keep it in the family. And it clicked that keep it in the family meant keep my money circulating through their family. She had a whole plan for my paycheck, and I was the last to know I was even in it. I told 2 people. My sister Della, because she'd already seen it before I did and I owed her that. And my dad, and telling my dad was its own event. Because my father is not a man who hears that someone tried to use his daughter and just nods. When I told him, he got very still and then very not still. And my mom had to physically get between him and his truck keys because he wanted to drive to Grant's mom's house at 9 at night. And honestly, the fact that I now had to manage my dad on top of everything was a whole second job. My mom and dad got into it about it right there in the kitchen. Him saying somebody needed to say something to that family tonight. Her saying he was going to make it about him and blow up whatever I was planning. They weren't wrong, either of them. That's my family. Nobody comforts you. Everybody has a strategy. And they'll fight each other over whose strategy it is while you stand there. Della was the one who kept me level. She said, don't tip them off. Don't give them a heads up. Don't be the bigger person and quietly walk away. Because walking away quietly just means they do it to the next girl and never once pay for this one. And something about hearing my little sister say that, the same sister I'd snapped at in July, made me decide I was done being the reasonable one who eats it. So over those first days, I started building the thing. I'm not going to lay it all out yet, because it took the full 3 weeks and it got so much bigger than I planned. Other people got pulled in who I did not expect. And there's stuff his mom did once she caught the first whiff that I still can't believe. But the short version is, I decided that if I was the bank, then I was going to close their account, in person, in front of everyone they'd spent 2 years performing for. I'll do an update. I need to walk through the middle because the middle is where it stopped being just about me and Grant and became this whole family war I did not see coming. But the headline is, they called me the bank and laughed. So I decided to show them what happens when the bank stops being nice. Update. Okay, so a lot of you asked how I could sleep next to him after knowing, and the honest answer is I mostly didn't. But also I've never been so calm in my life, which Della says is the part that worries her. I wasn't spinning out. I had a plan, and the plan gave me something to hold on to. Let me get into what actually happened over those weeks because the whole thing got so much messier than greedy guy, greedy mom, and the mess is where it gets good. First thing I did was stop being an open wallet without announcing that I'd stopped. This was the part I'm weirdly proud of. I didn't slam anything shut, because a slammed door tips people off. When the caterer friend needed the next chunk, I just had a snag. My bank was doing a security review, I said. So annoying, can't move big amounts for a bit. Which wasn't even fully a lie. I'd actually gone in and put holds and alerts on my own stuff so nothing could get helpfully auto-drafted. But I dressed it up as a boring bank problem. And I watched what Grant did when the money faucet had a slow drip on it, because that told me more than any conversation could. He got antsy fast. Not like a normal person who's a little stressed about a vendor. Antsy like a guy on a deadline. And that's when I really understood the timeline wasn't casual for them. There was a clock. The venue's final payment was due 6 weeks out, and that final payment was the big one. And everything in those previews had been about that money clearing. So Grant started pushing, gently at first, then less gently, about when my bank would be back to normal. He'd bring it up while I was literally brushing my teeth. He brought it up in bed. He brought it up in the cereal aisle at the Hy-Vee, which is such a specific detail, but I remember because I was holding a box of Honey Nut Cheerios and thinking, this man is stressing about half a wedding fund next to the cereal, and he doesn't even want the wedding. Now his mom. Once the caterer payment stalled, she got involved directly. And this is where a new thing came out that I did not have before. Because up till then, all I had was 3 notification previews and a bad feeling. She started calling me. Not Grant, me. And on these calls, she was doing this whole warm, concerned mother routine. But she kept fishing about my account. Was everything really just a bank hold? Did I need her to recommend someone? Her nephew works at a bank. He could look into it for me. And I want you to understand what she was actually offering. She was offering to get her banker nephew a look at my accounts. That was the ask, buried under 16 layers of sugar. I said no thank you so sweetly, I deserve an award. But here's the crack that opened everything up. On one of those calls, she got comfortable because she thought I was a stalling idiot with a bank problem, and she said something she absolutely should not have said. She was talking about the venue, and she said we, meaning her and Grant, had already talked to the venue about the deposit being refundable, if plans change. If plans change. And I went, oh, are we worried plans might change? Real light. And she caught herself and pivoted to, oh, you never know with weddings. So much can happen. But it was out there. They'd been asking the venue about getting money back. You don't ask about the refund policy on a wedding you intend to have. I hung up and called Della, and I was almost laughing because it was so blatant. My sister's whole thing through all of this was strategy. She kept saying, don't confront, collect. She's more patient than me by a mile. She deals with contracts and paperwork for a living. I'll leave it vague. But the point is, she thinks in terms of what can you actually show versus what do you just know. And she kept drilling into me that a feeling isn't leverage. So I started saving things. Not in a dramatic way. I just stopped deleting texts, and I made sure every payment I'd made had a record. Which, being me, they mostly already did. Because I'm the girl with the spreadsheet. Then my dad almost ruined all of it. I told you he wanted to drive over that first night. Well, keeping him contained became this ongoing situation. He couldn't stand that I was still living with Grant, still smiling at that family, still playing nice, and about a week and a half in, he snapped and called Grant himself. Didn't tell me first, just called him, man to man, and basically told Grant he knew something was off and that Grant better be treating me right. He didn't spill the actual plan. Thank God he didn't know the specifics. But he put Grant on notice, and that created a whole problem. Because now Grant came home rattled, asking me why your dad's calling me acting weird. Is something going on with your family? Do they have a problem with me? And I had to sit there and manage his paranoia while my own dad was blowing up my phone, wanting to know why I was mad at him for defending me. That fight with my dad was real, by the way. I love my father, but I was so angry I could barely talk to him. I told him he almost cost me the only shot I had to do this right. That he made it about his feelings and his need to charge and like a hero. And that if he loved me, he'd sit down and let me handle my own life. My mom took my side, which caused their whole thing. Because now my parents were fighting about whether my dad ever lets anyone fight their own battles. 20-year-old resentments coming up in my kitchen. My mom bringing up something from when I was in high school. So on top of the wedding that wasn't and the fiancé who saw me as an ATM, I now had my parents in a cold war in my group chat. Nobody in my family knows how to just be supportive. They love you by taking over. Meanwhile, Grant and I were having these long, awful, circular conversations that I now realize were both of us running a game on each other. He'd try to get the money moving. I'd act almost ready, and then find a reason it wasn't. He started getting real with me about us, saying he felt like I was pulling away. Was I having doubts? Did I still want this? And that one actually got under my skin, not gonna lie. Because he was good, he'd hold my hand and do the whole thing, and there was this awful hour where I sat there and wondered if maybe I'd read 3 stupid previews wrong. Maybe his mom was the bad one and he was just weak. Maybe I was about to blow up something real over his mother being his mother. That doubt was the most dangerous part of the whole 3 weeks. He almost talked me out of my own eyes. What snapped me back was so small. We were at his mom's for dinner, not a Sunday, a random Wednesday. She does midweek dinners. And I got up to help clear plates, and I heard the two of them in the kitchen before they heard me. Nothing shocking, no confession, they're not stupid. But Grant said something to her. Low, about how she's finally moving on it, meaning the money. And his mom said good, because she was starting to think I'd gotten cold feet about the whole thing. And they weren't talking about cold feet on the marriage. They were talking about cold feet on the payment. In their own heads, I wasn't a bride who might be having doubts. I was a transaction that might fall through. Hearing him talk about me like a deal closing, in his mother's kitchen, with me standing there holding a stack of dinner plates, that killed every last bit of doubt he'd planted. I walked back in and smiled and said something about the chicken being great. His mom told me the recipe. I will never make that chicken. So now I'm all the way back in, no doubt left. And I started building the actual thing, and this is where other people got pulled in that I did not plan for. There's Grant's older brother, Will. I hadn't mentioned him much because he and Grant aren't close. Will moved back to the area a year ago after a divorce, and their mom treats him like the disappointment son, always comparing him to golden boy Grant. Will and I always got along fine. Distant, but fine. And I had this instinct that Will knew things. Because Will is the one who gets talked about behind his back at those dinners, which means Will pays attention to how his family really operates. So I started spending a little more time being friendly with Will. Nothing sneaky, just actually talking to the guy everyone ignored. And it turned out he had opinions about how their mother handles money and family loans. Because apparently this wasn't the first time she'd steered somebody's money around. Will never said your fiancé is scamming you. He's not going to torch his own brother to his brother's fiancé on a hunch. But he told me enough about how their mom operates, how she'd done stuff with their late dad's money, how she sees other people's savings as family resources, that I understood I wasn't dealing with a one-off. This was her whole operating system, and Grant was raised inside it. That reframed everything. Grant wasn't some mastermind. He was a mama's boy running his mother's play, which honestly made me angrier, because at least a lone con man owns it. This was a grown man letting his mommy point him at women. Then his mom made her mistake, the one that handed me the whole game. Because I was still stalling on the caterer money, she decided to go around me. She called my mother. Under the whole us moms should coordinate the wedding details umbrella. She called my mom to talk about the finances directly, mom to mom, and tried to get my mother to lean on me to release the venue payment sooner so they could lock everything in. She basically tried to recruit my own mother as a collections agent. And she picked the wrong mom. My mother let her talk, let her get all the way through the pitch, all sugar, and then my mom, who'd known the whole story for 2 weeks, asked her one question. She asked why, if it was a partnership, my daughter was the only one whose money locked things in. And Grant's mom fumbled it. She said something about Grant's funds being tied up in the truck and some investment. And my mom said okay, so his money's tied up, but the wedding still needs to be paid for now, by my daughter. And if plans change, she'd be the one out of pocket, correct? And Grant's mom got flustered and said, of course, plans aren't changing, don't be silly. And my mom said she never mentioned plans changing. So why did you? My mother hung up and called me, and I have never heard her sound like that. Not upset. Delighted, in a terrifying way. She said, honey, I let her hang herself, and she did. And that was the moment my scattered pile of previews and overheard kitchen lines and Will's family history turned into something I could actually use. Because now the other mother had said the quiet part to a witness who was on my side. So I had it. I knew the timeline. I knew the refund phishing. I knew his mom's history from Will. I knew they were counting the venue payment as basically already theirs. And I knew there was a real due date coming up fast that they needed me for. And that's when I stopped collecting and started setting the actual trap. Because the venue's final payment deadline was going to be the day everything either happened for them or happened to them. His mom had a big engagement dinner planned. Her show, her people, the whole extended family and half her church friends to celebrate us. And I realized that dinner was going to land right around the payment deadline. Her stage. Her audience. The exact room full of people she'd spent 2 years performing for. I'll tell you what I did with that dinner in the next one because it's the whole payoff and I need to get it right. But I stopped being the bank that Wednesday in her kitchen. She just didn't know her account was already frozen. Last update. So the engagement dinner. Her big night. She rented the back room of this steakhouse she loves, the kind of place she name drops, and she invited everyone. The extended family, her church friends, Grant's aunts, the whole crowd she'd been selling us to for 2 years. Probably 30 people. And she scheduled it 2 days before the venue's final payment was due. Which was not a coincidence, because in her head that dinner was the last push to get me to release the money in front of an audience where I couldn't say no without looking like a monster. She thought she was setting a trap for me. That's the part I still love. She built the whole room. Here's what I did in the days before. I actually paid the venue, but I called them first and confirmed, in writing, exactly what Grant's mom had already told me they'd been asking, that the deposit and payments were refundable to the payer up to a certain date, and that I was the sole payer on file. Every dollar of that wedding had come off my account, and my name was on all of it. So I paid the final balance, on purpose, the day before the dinner. I wanted the money to be sitting there, cleared, so they'd walk into that room relaxed and smug and thinking they'd won. I brought my sister Della as my plus something, and I told my parents to come too, which his mom loved because more audience. What she didn't know was that my mom had already told my whole side the full story, so half the room on my end knew exactly what we were walking into. My dad promised me, swore to me, he'd stay in his seat and let me run it. That promise cost him physical effort, I could see it. So we're all seated, salads out, and his mom stands up to do her toast. And it's all about family. And how she knew from the moment she met me that I was the one. So steady, so responsible, such a blessing to this family. Responsible. Blessing, in front of everyone. And I let her finish. I let her get every word of that toast out, let everyone go awe, and then I stood up like I was going to sweetly respond. And I thanked her. I said she was right. I am responsible. I said I was so responsible that when I paid the final wedding balance yesterday, I also confirmed with the venue that every payment was made by me alone and fully refundable to me. And then I looked right at her and asked, in front of her aunts and her church friends and God, why she and Grant had already asked the venue about that refund policy weeks ago. If plans weren't changing, the room did that thing. Grant started talking fast. Something about a misunderstanding. Babe, let's not do this here. His mom went the other way, tried to laugh it off, tried to take the room back, said I was confused about a conversation. So I said the words back to her that she said about me. I said, "You called me the bank." To your son. Relax, she's basically the bank. And I asked the table if that's what a blessing to the family means to her, or if it just means a checking account with a wedding dress. Grant's aunt asked him flat out if it was true. And Grant, this is the thing. Grant didn't deny it to me. He turned to the room and tried to run his mom's play on his own family, saying I was twisting things, that I'd been acting off for weeks, that I went through his phone. And his brother Will, who I'd sat next to on purpose, just said, from his seat, real quiet, that everybody at that table already knew how their mother handles other people's money. They just didn't say it out loud. And that's what cracked the room. Because it wasn't the fiancé being dramatic anymore, it was the son they ignore confirming it. And you could watch the aunts recalculate 2 years of family history in real time. His mom lost it. Not confessing, she never once said sorry, she doubled all the way down. She started attacking me to the table, saying my family was trash, that we'd never had money, that I was a gold digger, which the woman calling Emmy a gold digger, while everyone in that room now knew I'd funded her son's entire life. My dad stood up. He kept his promise not to charge her, but he stood up and said, loud to the whole room, that his daughter had paid for everything and their whole family had planned to keep the money and drop her, and if anybody wanted to defend that, they could do it to his face. Nobody did. His aunts were done. One of them literally got up and left mid-entree. Then, I took my ring off at the table and set it down in front of Grant, and I told him the wedding was canceled, that I'd already pulled the venue refund, that the caterer his mother found never got the last payment and never would, and that everything they'd been counting on for weeks was gone. I closed it that morning. I said, "You wanted the bank. Well, the bank called your loan." He followed me to the parking lot, doing the whole thing. "We can fix this. My mom is difficult. I love you." That was never the real me. 2 years and now he loves me, in a steakhouse parking lot, because the money walked out. I told him I heard him in the kitchen call me a payment that might fall through, and that he could tell his mother the payment fell through for good. Where it's at now, the wedding's off, obviously. I got every dollar back from the venue because I was the only name on it. Grant's been texting paragraphs, then his mom's been calling my mother trying to say I humiliated the family, like she wasn't the one who built the stage. Will and I actually still talk, which is its own weird thing his mom hates. My dad and I are okay now. Mostly, my parents are still low-key fighting about the whole thing, but that's just them.